Hey Chad, this is Ben. Sorry I muted you when I joined. I'm kind of juggling this, and we've got a called council meeting going at the same time, so I'm trying to dance between the two here.
Okay, good to have you, Ben. Thanks for joining us.
I don't know, Chad, you have me? Lois Priest.
Sorry I muted you when I joined.
Okay, now I got a second thing going here.
We've got a called council meeting going.
That was our live stream starting. Mayor Priest, yes, we can hear you. How are you this morning?
Okay, just fine, thank you.
And good morning to Andrea Barber. How are you this morning?
I'm well. How are you doing, Chad?
Doing just fine. And I know I've missed some other people. I see quite a few people on our list here, so we're glad to have you all join us as well. Mr. Bamber, how are you this morning?
Very well, thanks. How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Excellent.
We've got just a few more people that are coming in. Okay, well, while we're waiting just a few minutes on the others, I'll go ahead and get us started. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for joining us this morning by Zoom. I know meeting electronically is new for most of us, but we're grateful to be able to still carry on business while keeping you and your families safe as we battle COVID-19. You know, our thoughts and prayers go out to those that are battling this virus, especially our healthcare workers that are on the front lines that are really working to help save lives. So this meeting today is being conducted. So let me start something over here. I got one more coming in. So this meeting today is being conducted in accordance with Governor Lee's executive orders number 16 and 34. Those permit us to hold public meetings electronically through the end of June. So this meeting is being recorded. It's also currently being live streamed to YouTube. So the public can join in on that right now, and that meeting will be available out there after this is over. You can search for that on YouTube by looking for Community and Economic Development, SETDD. I also wanted to welcome back one of our former technical committee members who's rejoining us, Wanda Fulmer, who is the past chair of our technical committee. Last year, she retired from the Mark Anton Airport, so she had resigned from our technical committee, but I'm proud to say she's back with us, joining us as Ray County's representative on the technical committee. So Wanda, we're glad to have you back with us.
Thank you.
So real quickly, since this is a new platform for us to meet and we don't get to see each other face to face, I'm going to give you some brief instructions here on how to use Zoom. So I'm going to put something up on your screen right here that will help us out a little bit. So I don't know who this guy is, but he seems to be pretty knowledgeable about some of this information. But if you're using this on a computer, the most important things for you to know how to do are to mute and unmute yourself. That helps a lot during the meeting. The way this works is usually whoever's talking or wherever it detects the most noise, that's whose picture comes up on the screen. If you're calling in today by telephone, if it's a desk phone or a cell phone, if you wouldn't mind finding the mute button on your phone, and then if you're ready to speak or ask a question, you can unmute yourself. For a computer, it's located right here in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. If you don't see it, just move your mouse around and it will pop up. There's also an option if you're on a computer in the middle down here, you'll see a chat option. That is a way for you to communicate with us during the meeting. It goes out to everyone. So if you want to ask a question or leave a comment about a project or something that we're talking about, that's an easy way to do that. Same thing goes if you're on a mobile device. This was from an iPad. You may have to click on the screen to make the menu options pop up, but there will be a mute option at the top. And if you click on more, there'll be a drop-down menu and you'll find a place to click on a chat box. Also, something unique to this is sometimes you may see one person full screen that's talking, but there's also an option to click on a grid view. So if you're on a mobile device, you'll see something that looks like this. If you're on a computer, you'll see something in the upper right-hand corner on this side that will say speaker view, gallery view, or you may see 9 dots. So that's a way for you to control how you're viewing the meeting. We talked about the chat box. It will pop up on the side of your screen. Like I said, that's a good way for you to communicate with us. There's the drop-down menu that you will see if you're using a mobile device. So that's it. So welcome to the Zoom meeting today. We're glad that you could join us. We have quite a few presentations to go through. One of the big things we're talking about today is the kickoff of our rural regional transportation plan. And so you should have already been getting some calls from some staff members in our office trying to set up some meetings for a few different days in June. So we'll be talking about that more in depth as we go along. And so Mayor James and Dan Evans, I'm going to turn the meeting over to you gentlemen, and we will maybe attempt to do a roll call and a vote, but we'll see how that goes. So Mayor James.
Thank you, Chad. I'm going to call the executive board to order and ask for a roll call at this time.
Okay, so just a reminder, just check to make sure that your microphone is unmuted. As I call your names, and I'm going to go down the list of the executive committee members first, just so we can get a record of who's here today. So first, Greg Ridley. Winky Cagle. Gary Davis.
I'm his proxy.
Okay, thank you, Bentley Thomas. Walter Good. Michael Brady. Preston Miller. David Jackson.
Here.
Thank you, sir. Paul Evans.
Here.
Thank you. John Gentry.
Here.
Thank you, sir. Mary Lois Priest.
Here.
Chuck Burris. I think Seth was going to try to be on here, but I know Ben is on here as well. Mayor James.
Here.
Jeremy Bivens. Robbie Hatcher. Jerry Stevens. George Thacker. Gary Lou Allen.
I'm his proxy. This is John.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you. And Dwayne Land. And did I say Keith Cartwright? I may have missed you when I went back to enter that. Also, Mike Bell and Ron Travis. So we have enough members here to have a quorum on the executive board, plus we have some that are serving as proxies. This time, since we don't have any official votes other than minutes, we didn't ask for official proxy forms, so we will still accept those proxies. So Mr. Evans,
Yes, at this time, we would like to voice vote of our technical committee members that are present.
so we'll do a roll call to see who is here of the technical committee members. So we'll go down the list quickly. Christy Cox. Shannon Burke.
Here.
Thank you. Robbie Robertson. Lou Sisto. Ray Evans. Sandra Knight. Louis Alford. Beth Jones.
Here.
Thank you. Linda Hickson.
Here.
Thank you. I know Jake Battles wasn't going to be able to join us today. Patty Pettit. Mr. Johnny Ray Fultz. Ralph Ryben. James Hawk. David Jackson.
Here.
Linda Hooper.
Here.
Dan Evans.
Here.
Tom Trotter. I think I've muted Tom, but he is on the phone with us, so I would have to get back to that in a minute to unmute you, Tom, but I've got you here. Ben Birchfield.
I'm here.
Jimmy Nelson. Jay Redmond. Laura Smith.
Here.
Roy Thomason.
Here.
James Talley. Jerry Stevens. Chris Kleehammer.
Here.
Byron Clinton. Glenn Varner. Wanda Fulmer.
Here.
John Bamber.
Here.
Eric Higgins. Winston Pickett. Janice Kaiser. Karen Rennick.
Here.
And Greg Thomas. And we do have enough for a quorum on the technical committee.
Okay, thank you, Chad. Let's move on to number 3, approval of minutes from the previous executive board meeting of December the 18th, 2019. Do I hear a motion to approve these minutes?
Motion to approve, Cartwright.
Do I hear a second?
Second, Mayor Jackson.
Thank you, Mayor Jackson.
I discussed my current research, and one of the key things I want to highlight is that microstructure and
And Mayor, we could just do a voice vote on this one since we've already gone down the roll.
Great. All those in favor of approving the minutes for the December the 18th executive board meeting, say so now.
Aye.
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 Those who oppose, likewise. Thank you. Dan, I think you're next.
Yes, we would entertain a motion for approval of the technical committee minutes from our last meeting. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, like sign.
Dan, I make the motion to approve the minutes as written.
That works.
I'll second it.
All in favor. I got ahead of myself, didn't I? Beth, I'm trying to do Zoom and I'm trying to do paperwork too, so I got to quit. One of them, no. All right, Beth, we had a motion from Mr. Birchfield and a second from Beth. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Sorry about that, guys.
Next on our meeting is item number 5, Southeast RPO updates and projects. Chad.
Yes, sir. I wanted to go over a few quick updates with you since our last meeting in December, just to let you know what the RPO has been doing. I'm going to take this off my screen here so we can see one another again and get my notes up. So for its general updates, as I mentioned a little bit earlier in the call, we are starting to schedule one-on-one meetings in each of our 9 RPO counties. We are preparing for the upcoming rural regional transportation plan. Andrea Barber will be discussing that a little bit later on in our meeting, but this will be our first major transportation plan for our RPO area. So we wanted to schedule these one-on-one meetings to give us the opportunity to meet with each of our mayors, our highway superintendents, school superintendents, police departments, public works, chambers, all of the people who have input on how transportation is going in their area, where they have transportation issues or needs, and we want to be able to record that in the plan. So this is a really important time for us to find out what your needs are in the community so that we can address that through the plan. Yesterday afternoon, we got some exciting news. The 3 community transportation planning grants that were applied for in our region earlier this year, all 3 were funded. So Athens is receiving a grant to do a citywide community mobility plan. Dunlap is receiving a grant to do a pedestrian and bicycle master plan, and Tracy City is receiving a grant to do a community mobility plan that's centered around 1 square mile of their downtown area. So congratulations to all 3 of those communities. The letters just went out to the mayors yesterday afternoon. Also, a little bit earlier this year, multimodal grants were awarded. One in our RPO area was Mont Eagle, and that was for State Route 15 to do part of the Mountain Goat Trail that will connect between I-40 and Assembly Avenue. That's a $947,000+ grant. The other was actually in an MPO area, but we still consider it part of our county, and that was in Calhoun. It was for State Route 163 from Church Street to Main Street, and that's pedestrian facility improvements. So we wanted to congratulate both of those communities. Also, in just a few minutes, Matthew Cushing, I was going to put him on the spot. He's from the multimodal division. They are going to be announcing a next round of multimodal applications. And I know we've already talked to quite a few of you that are interested in applying for that. So I thought he might want to chime in here in just a minute and give us some more information about the upcoming grant. Also, since our last meeting in Polk County, Mr. Hatcher had called me and asked about an issue they were having around the Copper Basin schools. They've been trying to get some school zone lots. I know Roy had worked on that for a while and the mayor had worked on that. So I worked with Alan Wolf at Teapot and Mayor Collins. Ducktown is actually going to sign the agreement to take over the school zone flashing lights. So that project is moving forward. So we wanted to thank the mayors there and Alan Wolf at TDOT for helping us with that project. In February, we participated in a road safety audit of Blueberry Hill Road in Dayton. That's a very good program. We've talked about it in the past. If you have county roads, not just state roads, but county roads too, that are experiencing high levels of crashes, if you can submit that information to us, we can look it up to see if it will qualify for road safety audit funding. And what this program provides is guardrails, signage, new striping on the roadways, and even sometimes they've even looked at actually making some improvements to the road surface itself. So that's a really good program, and it's no cost to our local governments. Also, earlier this year, I completed 2 state industrial access road applications. These are one of my favorite things to do because it means that we have expanding business and industry and creating more jobs in our region. So one of those is in Jasper and Kimball. You probably saw the announcement a few months ago of Mueller Water Products and the proposed expansion of Valmont Industries. We were successful in working with TDOT to get them to commit to actually repaving all of Industrial Boulevard from Main Street and Kimball to phase 1 that are near these 2 plants. And phase 1 is actually going to continue on from there to Godsey Drive. So that's actually 2 separate SIA projects going to repave Industrial Boulevard all through the industrial parks. That's a tremendous thing for that region. There was a second SIA. I can't disclose where that is because the company hasn't made a formal announcement yet, but we have successfully secured another SIA in one of our other communities for a brand new industry that's coming to that area. Also, build grants that are available from the Federal Highway Administration. Dunlap is applying again this year for a $10 million build grant. We supplied them with a support letter for that. That's to make pedestrian improvements. They even talked about roundabouts on Highway 127 where it meets State Route 28. There's a whole lot of planning that they've put together for that they'd like if they could get that money. So they're applying again for that this year. Also, we wrote a letter of support to TDOT. TDOT is applying for a build grant from Federal Highways to do rockfall mitigation on Highway 64 through the Ocoee River Gorge. Also, the National Scenic Byway application, Paul Archambault in our office has been working on that. If you remember, several years ago, we put together one at the state level, and the Congress voted to open it back up now so we can apply for a national grant. So Paul's been working on putting that together. So we hope to have the Sequatchie Valley Scenic Byway designated as a national scenic byway very soon. One other thing that a lot of our highway departments are not familiar with, and we've never written one for them before as far as I know, but USDA community facilities. Bledsoe County had contacted us about applying for funds to purchase new equipment. So Sam State in our office worked with them on putting that application together. There's quite a bit of information you have to have for it, including letters of credit from banks that you have to secure. But it is another option for funding for some of our highway departments. So when that round comes up again, that might be something you might want to look at and talk to us about. And then one final thing I wanted to say is Jenny Bill, who is our tourism coordinator in our office, has been working on wayfinding signage through the Sequatchie Valley. And we're working with TDOT on the placement of those signs. Most of it's going to be on a state route, and we just can't go out and put signs anywhere on a state route. So we're having to work with them on the placement of where those will go. But if you haven't seen that signage campaign, these are very nice looking signs. I even bought one myself to put in my office, but it's going to be in Marion, Sequatchie, and Bledsoe counties, and it directs attention to a lot of the tourist attractions in the area and also provides a cohesive signage plan for the area, tying all that area together. So that with the Scenic Byway program, that's going to be a tremendous project we've been working on for the Sequatchie Valley. That's all I had as far as updates. Matthew Cushing, if you're on the phone, if I could put you on the spot just a minute about the multimodal grants that are coming up. I know a lot of our members would like to hear about those.
Yeah, I'm happy to step in, and thanks for giving me a minute or two to talk about that. I'll go through really quickly here. I know you got a full agenda, so I will say if anyone wants to follow up with me, I'll put my email. Coming in at the same time. Yeah, if anyone wants to follow up by email, I'll put that in the chat as well as a link to the Multimodal Access Grant website. What I will say, so Multimodal Access Grant, high level, is a grant opportunity to fill in gaps for multimodal users on the state route network. So often that means the projects that are funded are sidewalks, but it can be bike infrastructure like bike lanes or shared use paths. It can be transit stop infrastructure as well. The eligibility for the program is cities and counties or towns, any municipality in Tennessee. The primary purpose is to, again, be along state routes. So if there is a section in your community of a state route where perhaps a sidewalk is needed, it is not there currently, especially if it's extending or connecting an existing network that usually scores pretty well. That's something that you should consider applying for. I will say that we just finished the most recent cycle. Like Chad said, there was an award recently in the RPO area, but we are already getting the next cycle spun up. We are anticipating posting new documents for that cycle in early June, probably about 2 weeks from now. At the same time, we are planning to open the notice of intent to apply phase. So there's 2 phases in applying for this program. The notice of intent to apply is very high level. It gives us an idea of what you're thinking about applying for, and it allows us to check that it fulfills basic eligibility requirements for the program. If a project does fulfill basic eligibility requirements, we'll let people know and then invite them to submit a full application. We're thinking that'll be around late August this year, but we're still figuring out the timeline. So if you do want to submit a notice of intent to apply, in about 2 weeks, be looking at the Multimodal Access Grant website. Probably we'll be taking those notices of intent to apply until about the end of July. But like I said, once we post materials in early June, there'll be a firm timeline. I just wanted to let you know that's kind of coming. Like I said, I've done that very quickly. I'm happy to go into any more detail if people have questions, but I don't want to take up too much of your time in this meeting.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Cushing?
Yes. This is Mayor Priest. Is this grant only for state highways or can it be for US highways also?
So oftentimes those will overlap. I'm happy to help look into a location for you, but it does need to be on the state route system. Probably they will overlap though.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm also wondering, so we had tried to make an application last year and for some reason it wasn't eligible for this, but I'm wanting to make sure that I understand maybe why we weren't eligible to apply and what I can do differently to make sure that we can get something going in this next round.
Sure, and it may be something where we want to follow up one-on-one, but the primary eligibility screening criteria is that proximity to a state route. That's kind of the main consideration. And also, there has been in the past kind of this guideline that you can go up to a quarter mile off of a state route with improvements to connect to kind of needed areas. That's the primary consideration, just making sure that it's along the state route. Also, there does need to be a transportation need. So without looking at that previous notice of intent to apply, so some applications are kind of serving primarily a recreational need, and that does not fulfill kind of the minimum eligibility requirements there. That can be a little bit of a gray area, though, to be honest. Otherwise, obviously it needs to be multimodal infrastructure. It's not going to be for just widening a roadway or something like that. It needs to be sidewalks, bike lanes, transit stop infrastructure. But do feel free to follow up with me. I am happy to kind of look in and see why that happened last year. And if you do decide to apply again, do feel free to reach out at any point. I'm happy to consult kind of as you're thinking through the process.
Thank you so much.
Are there any other questions? Okay, well, I can't say enough about this program. It's a tremendous program that TDOT is offering, and I get excited when they announce it every year. If you're familiar with the transportation alternatives, that requires a 20% match from the local communities, but this is only a 5% match. And the best part about this project is you can also include your engineering expenses, which is something I keep hoping TDOT will be able to do one day, because engineering expenses on these projects gets to be tremendous and a tremendous part of a project, especially if it's a small scale project. So if you're interested in this, it's a $950,000 max request for $1 million project. Please reach out to us at the Development District. We'll be glad to help you put your application and notice of intent together. I know I've already talked to a few communities already who are looking at this project, especially some who already have projects and are looking at doing phase 2. So please keep this in mind, and I'll be sending this information out to you in email as we get it. And like I said, please feel free to follow back up with us. So moving on to that, if there are no other questions, I want to move on to one other grant program that we are currently accepting applications for. And this is a new program for us. It is actually a pilot program. And TDOT has given RPOs money to actually, we're going to get to decide what communities are funded. It's called the Rural Planning Initiative. We are hoping to spend all of the money we have available to us in this round, but grants can be up to $25,000, but they're only available in our distressed and at-risk counties. So that's just 4 of them, Ray, Meigs, Bledsoe, and Grundy counties. So that includes their municipalities as well. I know I've already talked to several of your highway departments. I've also talked to some others in the community who are interested in applying for this. Applications are due to us on June the 10th. You'll just email those directly to me. We're working on putting together a 5-person review committee. By mid-July, we should have our recommendations ready, and then TDOT will have to review and approve those by the end of July. So as far as projects are concerned, you can see there at the bottom of the screen, eligible activities. This is for a planning document only. So access management studies, corridor studies, road diet analysis, resurfacing and striping plans. This doesn't pay to do the striping, but it does pay for a plan. So if you're looking at maybe restriping a road to add parking or bike lanes or something like that and need some drawings together for that, that's what that will cover. Transportation facility inventories, feasibility studies. I know one of our counties had contacted us about doing a feasibility study about widening a roadway to better accommodate traffic going into one of their high schools. That would be a project that would qualify. And then all CTPG, the Community Transportation Planning Grant activities are also eligible under this plan. So if you're interested in this, please get in touch with me. It's a very simple application to fill out, just stating what you would use the funds for and why you need that for your community. If the project, what it will be done is once it's funded, we will be helping you procure a consultant to put these plans together. But any cost overrun over what you would be funded would be at the cost of the local government. Are there any questions on this plan? Okay, well, I think that's all we have on that one. So moving along with our agenda items, the thing I mentioned to you earlier today was the Rural Regional Transportation Plan kickoff. So Andrea Barber, who is the TDOT Special Projects Coordinator, is going to be speaking to you. So I'm going to make some changes here so that she can put her PowerPoint up on the screen. But we're going to be talking about this very important plan that will be starting here very soon. So Andrea, I'll turn it over to you and it's ready for you.
Thanks, Chad. Okay. Can everyone see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Andrea Barber, and I am the Special Projects Coordinator at TDOT. I'm located in Nashville headquarters, and I've been working with all of the RPOs across the state on developing rural regional transportation plans. And so the origin of these plans and the why we're doing this is because in 2015, the department had the 25-year policy plan, long range plan, and that plan's updated every 5 years. And some of the things that came out of that was, the RPOs, our rural communities, needed more focus on transportation planning. If any of you work with the MPOs, you know that the MPOs do long range transportation plans every 5 years as well. And so the process was, well, we need to be doing the same thing for the RPOs. And so with that was tasked with developing rural regional transportation plans for our RPOs. And so with it being regional, there's only so much we can cover and take care of. And I recognize that each county within a region has its own needs, has its own industries. And then even within each county, each municipality within that county may have a separate need from the county. So just to manage expectations of what a rural regional transportation plan is. So, it's not just a narrow focus on projects. We're going to look at other things. Projects are not off the list, but it's just not a specific focus on projects. The hopes are that the plan should take a long-term strategic perspective and reflect regional priorities, more so a big picture look at what's needed throughout the region. So that's what we're doing. It may be wayfinding, it may be making connections within other state agencies that, if you have something that's transportation related, but it's overlapping with tourism, find solutions for those things, and also documenting what the community says they want or need, because this is a long range plan. So we're forecasting out 5, 10, 15, 20 years out. What do you foresee your community needing? And so those are the things that we'll be asking. So one of the things with the plan that we want to be able to answer is, where are we now? What are our current conditions now? Where do we want to go? What are our needs versus our wants for transportation within the region? What will guide us? Those have done some smaller plans, but as a region, I don't believe that there's ever been complete regional planning. So I think this is a good first step in deciding where the region is going. And currently, how are we doing this and how would we like to do it better in the future? Are we working together? Because we know that state routes don't just stop and start at your county lines throughout the region. And, mainly how are we interacting with TDOT and, what can TDOT do to make things better within your communities? And so, that's the main objective for these rural regional transportation plans. It's not just right now the immediate needs, but future planning, what do you foresee your communities needing? So with that, it's a very large document. Some of them have been up to 150 pages, but I'm just going to go through some of the things that the plan covers, and I'm going to try and be quick. So we have an overview of the region, so the description and function of the RPO, a summary of the current transportation network, and then goals and objectives that you all will be identifying for your communities. We look at demographic and land use trends. So the relationship of land use to the development of transportation, population trends, transportation implications, and demographic trends. Then in the next section, we'll look at regional transportation systems. So we'll look at roadways, public transportation, condition of the airports, how freight is moving throughout your communities, travel demand management. Then next, we'll look at transportation system performance and recommendations. So roadways, public transit, bike and pedestrian facilities, goods movement, land use and future growth, travel demand management. There's a public involvement piece, which I'm going to discuss at the end of this presentation, and then plan adoption, and then references. Well, we want to reference any plan that any of your communities have already done. We want them to be all in one location. So that's just a brief overview. I'm also at the end of the presentation going to provide a link for rural regional transportation plans that have already been completed and adopted. So if you're just curious and you want to take a look at it, I'm not going to do that on this call, but I'll have the links so you all can look at those things. So Chad mentioned earlier in the beginning of the meeting that you all have been getting phone calls about scheduling one-on-one meetings with your communities. And so historically, before COVID hit and completely blew up my schedule for this spring and summer, we were planning to come to each of your communities to meet with you, to ask you these questions. Where do you need multimodal access? Where are you having freight issues? Where are you needing repaving and resurfacing? Where are your maintenance? What are your concerns for safety in your communities? And so typically, like I said, we would come out to your community and meet with you. But due to COVID, that all has to be moved to a digital platform. And so we have this tool called Map Social, and it's map-based engagement platform. And it's really easy to use. You can use it on your phone. You can also use it from the computer. And so you'll see, and this is Northwest RPO. I'm working with them right now too. And I understand this is Southeast, but just for purposes, I'm going to show you what we're doing in Northwest. So you can see, you'll receive a link and you'll have access to maps. You can leave comments on specific locations. So the main things that we're going to be mapping are going to be, your community assets. Where are you seeing development in your community? Where are your safety concerns? Where are your multimodal access needs? Where are your freight issues? Resurfacing and repaving, a lot of people have questions about that. Community attractions and tourism, we know tend to create transportation issues within communities. Maintenance needs. And then of course there's an other icon. But what you'll do is you'll literally log into this website. You'll be able to select an icon, drop the icon in your specific location, type a brief title and a brief description of what's happening at that location. And I'll be able to virtually see that. And it'll look something like this screen. This is Lake County. And so you can see someone has dropped an other icon, and then someone else has placed a community asset on the map. And so you all will be able to do that remotely within your communities, to tell me where your concerns are, where your needs are, to help identify locations. So we'll do that virtually instead of obviously me coming to meet with you all, but we will also still have the one-on-one meetings via Zoom where I will ask these questions and of course document specific locations and state routes that you all have mentioned. But I think it's also a great exercise for you all to map some of these issues using Map Social. So I'll be sharing more details with Chad about how we're going to roll that out to you all, but just know that that is something that you all will have access to, as well as the public, to share any comments or needs that are within the Southeast RPO. And this is on the long range planning website under the Office of Transportation. There's a small tab with rural regional transportation plans. And so there you can see the plans that have been completed. If you want to, just take a look to see what other plans look like. They're very similar in format, but obviously the content is different for each community. And here's the link. I can provide that also to you all if you just want to take a look and browse through your plans. That I'm done with my presentation, but if there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Would you put that back up for just a second? That link.
And I can copy that and put it in the chat box too.
Yeah, and Linda, we'll be glad to send that out to you in an email as well.
I've taken a picture of it, but I'd be happy to have it in an email.
Absolutely.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Barber? Well, Andrew, we sure do thank you, and we look forward to working with you on this project for our region. I know this is something that we've been hoping for a long time, to have a plan in place. So we are really looking forward to having this. So thank you. So moving on with our agenda, next up, I believe we have Amy Kasanovic.
Yes.
She's going to be speaking to us on the National Economic Partnership Freight Study. This was a study that was awarded by Federal Highways, and it's really concentrated in our region, talking about freight movements and freight parking. So, Amy, thank you for joining us today, and I'll turn it over to you, and it's available for you to share your screen.
Okay. Thank you, Chad. I'm glad to be here and speak on the NEP grant in front of all of you guys. And let me share. See if I can share my screen. Okay. Let me start the slideshow. Just one second. Well. Keeps moving. Hold on. Here we go. Okay, can you guys see this?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So as Chad said, I'm Amy Kasanovic. I work in our newly created Freight and Logistics Division. And that division was created last October. And the focus of the Freight and Logistics Division is to really get the right freight on the right mode at the right time for all of TDOT. And part of my office considers planning, so updating the statewide freight plan, the statewide rail plan, as well as other project related items and prioritizing those projects. We also have prioritized projects on the National Freight Network as well. So if you have any freight related questions, feel free to reach out to me. My office also manages the short line railroad rehabilitation grant programs for the state now. And we manage the rail connectivity grant. I know that we've been working with Mayor Jackson on a rail connectivity grant, as well as many of you as it relates to some of our short line railroad authorities. And if you have any questions about that, you can reach out to me. The third big item that we typically work on is grant programs to submit federal applications for grant funding. And the National Economic Partnership Grant was actually one of those programs. Now, let me see if I can. So why are we doing this? So in 2018, FHWA announced that they were going to do a National Economic Partnership Grant. And it was to look at economic and transportation planning issues that crossed multi-jurisdictional boundaries. And I'll cover what a multi-jurisdictional boundary or a mega region is in a few minutes, but their biggest focus was related to mega regions and how freight planning or any type of planning related to those areas. It also wanted to look at economic competitiveness. So how could these regions do transportation planning and do economic development related planning that would have a 1-2 punch, that would provide both, projects that would encourage both areas to grow. So as you look at this first map, this is one of the examples of different mega regions in the United States. And as you can see, the purple, Nashville is in the purple area. You also have Birmingham in kind of a light pink area, and then you have Atlanta in the red area. Well, the Chattanooga region and the Southeast RPO is involved in that whole area, right? It crosses all three boundaries. So this is a perfect example of how transportation planning, economic development planning can bleed across all of these boundaries, and it provides a good solution. This is the second map. So these are actually definitions of bigger mega regions. And the Chattanooga area falls in a combination of the Mid-South mega region and the Piedmont Atlantic mega region. And just to give some history of the project, so they announced the grant program in 2018 during the late summer. We applied as a region. In fact, our OCT Region 2 offices came to us with the idea, and they said, why don't we look at Freight Alley, which is the greater Chattanooga region? And why don't we propose doing a freight analysis, a freight flows analysis as part of that study? So that's what we did. We submitted first a letter of intent, and then we submitted a full application, and we found out in the spring of 2019 that we won the grant, only one of 4 grants that were chosen throughout the US. So this is a huge pilot study and a huge win for our area. So who was a part of this grant program? Well, we actually brought together many different partners, and many of you played a part in that application process. So the development district, the rural planning organization, you played a big part. We also pulled together ALDOT, GDOT, the Atlanta Regional Commission, Karen Rennick and her folks at the Chattanooga MPO, Greg Thomas at the Cleveland MPO. Many different partners came together for this grant program, and that was part of the reason that we won the grant. We were a multi-jurisdictional partnership by coming together and providing efforts to do transportation and economic development planning. So here is a map that shows the regions that Thrive interacts with, and Thrive was a major player as well in this program. And Thrive brings together 16 counties. So I believe that's all of your counties, if I'm not correct. Is that right, Chad?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So Thrive does already bring all of you guys together, as well as
Amy, this is
counties
Beth. It
from
actually
Georgia
excludes Grundy.
and Alabama.
I'm sorry. It actually excludes Grundy County, which is part of our region.
Okay. Okay. Well, the majority of the counties are brought together, and we figured that this would be a great vehicle for Thrive to play a part in this grant program and to bring the whole group together to study freight flows analysis. So here are some important parts of the study itself. So as I mentioned, we did we're doing an in-depth freight flows analysis. So the study actually begun in June of 2019, and it will finish in December of this year. And CDM Smith is the consultant that we ended up selecting to do the in-depth freight flows analysis. And we are actually looking at 5 different industry sectors as a part of that analysis that I'll cover in a few minutes. Task 6 is a freight partner interview study that Thrive just completed. And in that study, they interviewed representatives from truckload companies, LTL carriers, industries, local developers. They interviewed all different types of people, and I'll cover a little bit of information that they provided as a part of their study. Task 7 is a truck parking survey that we completed, and actually it was CDM Smith that was consulted to do that as well. And the truck parking survey, if you don't already know, truck parking is a huge issue for all freight carriers because they have hours of service requirements. They cannot drive over 11 hours continuously before taking a rest break. And many of these truckers have no place to park to rest properly. So truck parking is a huge issue. TDOT will complete truck parking locator maps based on the survey that was completed by CDM Smith as a part of this study. And then finally, we hope to transfer this study and the items that we studied to other local areas so that they can duplicate efforts for their respective areas. So we've studied 5 different industries as a part of the freight flows analysis. And one of the biggest industries that we decided to study was the flooring industry. And as you all know, being a part of this area, there are many representatives of flooring companies in the greater Chattanooga region and in Freight Alley. So this was one of the biggest industries that was important for us to study. In addition, we are also looking at the automobile industry, and currently, obviously the Chattanooga area has Volkswagen, but Tennessee just by itself has the highest concentration of automobile related companies. So not only OEMs, but tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers as far as their employment base is concerned. So this is a huge industry that needed to be studied in how freight travels from and to those facilities throughout the region. The other 3 industries we are studying are freight and logistics companies. So these would be trucking companies, LTL carriers, third-party logistics companies throughout the area. And the Chattanooga area and Tennessee have many, as well as we're studying agribusiness, and we're also studying aerospace and other advanced manufacturing. So this is just an example of the OEMs in the greater Piedmont Atlantic area. And as you can see, the Chattanooga area intersects with all of those. So we've got obviously GM and Nissan in Middle Tennessee, Volkswagen in Chattanooga. But then when you go into Georgia and Alabama, we now have Toyota that's coming up in Huntsville, close to the region. We have Honda as well on down into Birmingham. And the study area was the entire part of Tennessee in many instances, but then also from Birmingham north in Alabama and from Atlanta north in Georgia. Oh, okay. The truck parking locator map. So within the region, we have found that public and private spots, the number that was obtained, we have approximately 12,781 spots throughout the region. But again, this is not enough. We are still having many folks park on exit and entrance ramps, and that's a danger to our interstate highways. So the point of the locator map is to show these truckers where all these spots are located and what the amenities are at these locations. And this will be something that will be available on our website. And we hope to eventually turn this into an app that they can use on their phones. And it will also tell us where the truck parking spaces are not. So where the deserts are, where we still need additional investment for truck parking. And before I complete the study, I will let you know as well, as far as Thrive's contribution, they did during their survey, their freight partner interview survey, they found out that the 3 highest challenges for freight companies are congestion, and 71% of all respondents said that congestion is an issue throughout the region. So we're hoping that with the freight flows analysis and looking at the different industries, we can offer some possible project solutions to focus on in the future. The second issue that all the truckers had was related to truck parking, and 51% said that truck parking is an issue in the region. And then many also responded that there is infrastructure deterioration in the region as well. And these are our contacts. So I've served as a project coordinator on the project, and Dan Palmy, who is my supervisor and is the Assistant Bureau Chief of Freight and Logistics, he is the co-project lead along with David Lee, who is an Assistant Director with Long Range Planning. And I'll take some questions now if anyone has any questions.
Are there any questions for Amy? Well, hearing none, Amy, thank you very much for your presentation, all the work you all have been doing on that plan for our region. I mean, that's something that we certainly need to get a handle on. We've talked about all the freight movements that come through here, the bottlenecks we have on I-24 and I-75. But also, I know a lot of our community leaders that are on here today talking about the truck parking. I know a lot of communities where the Walmarts and the exits along the interstates, they become truck parking areas for a lot of the truckers in our region. So I know that that's an issue too a lot of them are facing. But Amy, we certainly appreciate your presentation. And if there are no other questions for Amy, I think we'll move on to our next agenda item. Rachel Bergman is going to be talking to us about the recently completed I-75 corridor study. Rachel is a new planner. If you might have met her at our December meeting, working for the Office of Community Transportation here in Region 2. So Rachel, turn it over to you.
Thanks, Chad. I appreciate it. As Chad mentioned, my name's Rachel Bergman, and I am a senior community planner with the Office of Community Transportation. I'm going to briefly share some information about the multimodal corridor study that TDOT recently completed on I-75, which also included studying I-55 and 26.
And Rachel, we don't have the presentation showing up.
Oh, you don't?
On our
It
end.
is sharing on my screen. Let me try again. Did that work?
No, we still don't have anything.
Okay.
I tell you
It's
what,
up on my screen.
let me open it on my end.
Okay. Let me try to share my screen one more time. Did that work?
No,
Okay, I guess I'll let you share it for me then. I'm sorry.
just one second here.
It's full screen on my screen, so I'm not sure.
Okay, this should show up for everybody now.
Yeah, thanks, Chad. Sorry about that. So you can go on to the next slide. So just a little bit of background on corridor planning. TDOT completes corridor studies on each interstate corridor in the state every 10 years. Corridor planning is a comprehensive process that assesses the ability of the interstate to meet the travel demands over the next 20 years. So these are pretty long-term studies. So the purpose of these studies is to evaluate the existing and future conditions of the road, identify potential improvements and management strategies along the route, and support TDOT and other decision makers about future studies or project progress. These studies can help inform which new or existing projects move forward based on road conditions and overall need. You can go to the next slide. So This corridor study was completed by our consultants AECOM over the last 18 months, beginning in fall 2018. So this study is actually just about to wrap up at the end of May. So during this time, AECOM and TDOT both hosted a series of open houses where they gave presentations about the corridor deficiencies and solutions. And there was also a survey that was available online throughout the entire duration of the study where people could provide input. So some of you might have provided input to the study, but that was available for probably about 9 to 12 months. So AECOM is currently completing their final report on the corridor that considers this public and stakeholder input, as well as the issues that they studied. The report's going to be published on TDOT's website, which I will share in the chat box at the end of the presentation. Next slide. So just to give you a little bit of a map of the corridor that was studied, I-75 is the longest of the 3 corridors that were studied, reaching 162 miles from Kentucky to Georgia. I'm going to focus on the issues and potential solutions identified that are more around the RPO area, but do know that there are technical reports and of course the final report online that focus on the entire corridor, since we all obviously don't just stick to this area. Next slide. So the first phase of the study looked at existing deficiencies and issues on the route, and they broke that into 4 main categories: traffic operations, freight and economic development, safety, and multimodal, which included transit, bike, and pedestrian. So when you're looking at some of the transit operations issues that were identified, included congestion issues on US 64, State Route 320, and I-24 to the Georgia state line. Some of the freight and economic development issues was insufficient truck parking, which Amy just gave us a great overview of, and projected employment and population growth around interchanges in Chattanooga and Cleveland. Some of the safety issues that they noted included higher crash rates during peak hour congestion in some of these really heavily traveled areas, and also limited visibility in McMinn County due to foggy conditions. Finally, some of the multimodal deficiencies include a lack of regional transit connections between Cleveland and Chattanooga, and a lack of sidewalks at many of the interchange crossings where the interchanges intersect with US or state routes. Next slide. So after AECOM identified some of these issues and deficiencies, they looked at a range of solutions and potential improvements using those same 4 categories. In the traffic operations categories, some of the solutions include interchange improvements and road widening in highly congested areas. Some of the freight and economic development improvements include adding additional truck parking and studying the need for additional interchanges in some of those population centers. Safety improvements include installing lighting, signage, and extending deceleration lanes to improve overall safety on the road. And finally, some of the transit improvements include extending existing CARTA routes and further studying the feasibility of a commuter rail between Cleveland and Chattanooga. So I will note that this is only a sample of the deficiencies and solutions that were studied along I-75. There are 3 technical reports that have been published already on TDOT's website, and there's a final report that should be available in the next few weeks on the website. So I encourage anyone who is interested in learning more about the study to read those technical reports and to reach out with us at TDOT if you have any questions at all. And I'm going to post my contact information and this link in the chat box for anyone who has any questions. Thank you.
So do we have any questions for Ms. Bergman? Okay, hearing none. Next up, Andrea Noel, and going to let you know, Andrea has changed positions since the last time we had our RPO meeting. You know, Stacy Morrison was the planning supervisor for this region. He has now taken a job in Nashville as the OCT supervisor for all 4 regions in Tennessee. And Andrea moved up to take his position as the planning supervisor for Region 2. So Andrea, congratulations. And also turning it over to her to talk about the paving schedule. You've heard us communicate with you over time about bike lane possibilities when TDOT is looking at repaving some routes. So Andrea's going to talk to us a little bit about the repaving schedule.
Thank you, Chad. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I can't share my screen because it says you
you
just
can
gave
now.
me access. Thank you. Okay, are you seeing my presentation now, Chad? Are you seeing that on your screen, Chad?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'm sure you're having TDOT overload right now, so I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk about our coordination of our paving projects. So resurfacing coordination historically, municipalities were contacted regarding resurfacing with limited time to respond. TDOT did not consistently request local input apart from utility coordination, and we only changed striping and markings to incorporate new safety standards. But resurfacing coordination currently, we're trying to do a much better job. So TDOT is publishing the current and proposed lists on our website the summer prior to the projects actually happening. TDOT will communicate with each jurisdiction on the resurfacing list. So if you're on the list for the next year, then you will get a communication from us. So, and TDOT is also considering changes to be included in the project. And some of these changes are, what are the possibilities? It could be the addition of bike lanes and buffers, crosswalk enhancements, road reconfigurations and road diets, rumble stripes and strips, and of course, coordination on utilities. But keep in mind that some of your requests may require cost sharing from the jurisdiction. In some cases, we may require stamped engineering drawings. All changes need to be approved at least 21 weeks prior to the letting dates. So that means as soon as we reach out to you, if you have any requests at all, please get back to us as soon as you can. So we'll have plenty of time to work through those. And changes are only made from curb to curb. And I'll show you what that means in just a second. The exception is that if there's an existing curb ramp, we will update those to bring them up to ProWAG compliance. So curb to curb means what's existing. So this kind of shows you what's already there. Not outside of your bike lanes. And so we won't be putting in sidewalks where there aren't sidewalks. As far as bike lanes, when we're doing a paving project, it's efficient to add bike lanes at that time. You can utilize the existing shoulder. We can add striping and signage. Sorry about that. You can ask for crosswalk enhancements. So TDOT updates existing curb ramps to be ProWAG compliant unless you're otherwise requesting something different. You can ask for road reconfiguration. So this is the same number of lanes. It just reduces the widths of the lanes so that you can add room for a bike lane. You can ask for road diets, and we can look into that. That typically involves reducing the number of lanes. So if you have a typical 4 lane, then you can reduce that to a 3 lane. But of course, when any of these requests come in, they have to meet the regulation. So you can ask for it, doesn't mean that it's going to get approved, but we will look at them to see if they meet all the standards. Additional coordination with any TDOT city-run projects. So if you have a sidewalk project coming up, say you had a TAP grant and you're working on your sidewalks already, let us know, because we don't want to, the last thing that we want to happen is to have you come in and tear up the pavement that we've just put down. So please coordinate with us. And also, if you have any major events, I know with COVID-19 right now, it's probably unlikely that you're going to have a parade, but you never know. This is next year. So if you have a parade or something, we definitely don't want to come in and close the road and be resurfacing while you're trying to schedule a parade. So let us know anything that's happening. So as far as the outreach process, like I said, the paving projects are on our website, and I can post this in the chat box after. So you can look at that periodically throughout the year and see if it's been updated and see if you're on the list, because there will be a proposed list and then there'll be a final list. So throughout the year, you can look at it and see if it's been updated. When the final list is published, it'll be on the website. But like I said, if you have a project, we will be contacting you. So each jurisdiction will get a letter if you have a project, and the letter will show you what the state road is, what type of resurfacing is proposed, the beginning and the ending termini. There'll be a map so you can see exactly where it's going to be. And then we'll also give you a deadline to make any of those changes or any of those requests that I talked about. But what we need from you most importantly is when we send you the letter, we need you to forward it, because most likely it will go out to the mayors and city managers. We try to include everybody that we know. So we'll send it out to everybody that we know. But if you see somebody that's not on the list, if you have bike ped coordinators that we don't know about, please forward this to everybody that needs to see it so that they know that you have a paving project coming and that they know to what the deadline is to get back to us. Also, if you have any questions in the meantime about the appropriateness of bike lanes or road diets, you can email our multimodal planning division. Matthew was on earlier. And then you can also look at their website. There's lots of documents on there that talk about the specific design guidelines for road diets and all that stuff too. So that's a great resource. I already said that. And then this is me and Rachel. So if you have any questions, just reach out to us and we'll be happy to help. And also Rob Howard is our resurfacing coordinator for Region 2, and he's on the line as well. So you'll also see communications from him from time to time too on the project. So that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Andrea. Are there any questions for Andrea? Okay, well, Mayor James, that concludes our portion of the meeting. So for this next part, we do have some people from Region 2 on the line. So are there any questions from our membership on projects in your region or any questions you might have from TDOT? We'd like to take those at this time. And don't forget to unmute if you're asking a question. There's also, if you wanted to ask a question, to put in the chat box. I know from earlier in our meeting today, Matthew has shared some information on the multimodal program. He's put that link in the chat box. We can send that out after this meeting as well. Also, Andrea Barber put her contact information and the link to the other long-range planning documents that have been completed, the transportation plans in the other regions. And then Andrea and Rachel have put links in their presentations out here as well. So do we have any questions from our membership? Do we have any other properly presented new business? Okay, well, I think that concludes our meeting today. So Dan Evans, do you have anything else you would like to add?
No, sir. I don't have anything, but thank you for all the information that was shared with us. Yes.
Okay, well, if there are no other questions, thank you all for joining us. I know this was a new method for us to try today, but I appreciate you taking time out of your day to participate in this meeting with us. And that's all I have. So Dan, if you don't care to call for a motion to close the meeting, if there's no other business, I think we have concluded.
I call for a motion for adjournment of this meeting.
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Evans, second.
Executive Board adjournment. I call for a motion in this meeting. adjournment?
Motion to adjourn, Cartwright.
Motion
Second,
made.
Priest.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all very much, and I hope you have a great rest of the week and have a good day.
Thank you, Chad, for all you've done for us today, buddy.
Thank you, Chad.
Yes,
Thanks,
sir.
Chad.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Chad.
See you, Bentley.
Good job, Chad.